Good morning, sunshines. I hope everybody's doing okay. Thank you for coming out on a dreary morning. My name is Bobby Ruffin. I am the outgoing director at the Mako Bigelow Community Center at North Park. So I'm with the City of Burlington Recreation and Parks. It is my honor to welcome you all to our Building Bridges event for this year. I was excited to get started with the Power in Place Collaborative 3 years ago now. It's really hard to believe that it's been 3 years. We started this work during the pandemic, and it has really grown into something that we could not have imagined. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself and my involvement, and then my teammates will introduce themselves. As the director of the Mako Bigelow Center, not sure if you all are familiar with that facility, but during segregation, it was the park where Black people could go, right? And so there's a lot of history, some rich stories connected to that place. And so for us, we have folks coming into Mako Bigelow every single day, sharing their stories about how their families grew up at North Park, how they learned how to swim, the concerts, all these really special memories, but they weren't captured anywhere. They were just oral histories that they were sharing whenever they come. So it was really important for me to be able to join with a group of people who were also interested in capturing these stories, preserving them, and then sharing them with the public. So that is why I chose to get involved and why I'm still here. And at this time, I'm going to ask my teammates to introduce themselves and just give a little bit of background about why they got involved.
Good morning. I am Dr. Vanessa Drew Branch. I'm an associate professor of human services studies. So a little bit about why I got involved. My class, if y'all can raise y'all's hands, the senior capstone course, capture many of the stories that you will see today. The primary reason that my class is involved is because they are going to be the next generation of helpers. So they have many skills that are really good for this type of project, such as interviewing, right, y'all? Interviewing folks, collecting data, that's the interviews, but then also telling a story. I'm a social worker by profession, and so much of the work that I do is translating my clients' stories into either publications for interventions or other types of scholarship. And so it's helping those students really learn how to, one, connect with real life people, and then turning that into beautiful works of art and scholarship. So that is the major reason that I'm involved. And I love a good story. Whenever they showed me the drafts, I was in Seattle, and in the promotional video, you'll see a really great clip, and I started crying because it's that kind of human connection that really, really draws me to the work. So.
I'm Danielle Lake. I'm the Director of Design Thinking and an Associate Professor here at Elon. And our commitment is to designing together, to imagining who we are, who we want to be, and what we want our places to be like. And it's been an honor and a dream to partner in that work and we talk about reveal the hidden and share in our histories together. And so it's been great to be a part of this initiative over the past few years. And I want to turn it over to Dr. Marshall.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandy Marshall, and I'm an associate professor of geography in the Department of History and Geography. I'm a cultural and political geographer, so the diverse perspectives and meanings of place is kind of at the heart of what I do, and I've had the honor and pleasure of working on this project since its inception. This year, my students from the Global Migrations course are part of this project, and we're examining narratives of migration and immigration stories to Burlington. All the stories that we're seeing today, though, pay tribute and honor to the memory of Jane Sellers, the late founding director of the African American Cultural Arts and History Center. She had a purpose and passion for preserving the stories and memories and history of the African American community in Alamance County, including using oral histories and digital stories to record the hidden histories and unsung heroes of our community and capturing their voices. Her vision from the beginning was to expand this project to include more diverse communities in Alamance County to create a more diverse and inclusive narrative of this county. So we're very grateful to be partnering with the Burlington Masjid in this work this year.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Shields, and I'm the new manager of the African American Cultural Arts and History Center. So I've only been there a couple of months. And Sandy pretty much covered just why this project is so important to us, why it's so important for us to honor our late founder, Jane Sellers. Stories are so important. It's just so crucial to kind of create new griots, to tell our stories, to tell the community stories and bring people together. And so I'm very honored to be here, very honored to be a part of this work. And we appreciate everyone being here. Thank you.
So before I speak a little bit about some of the other projects that have come out of this, the collaborative, we would like to play a short promotional video that really highlights the work that has been done over this semester.
I've had some hills to climb. I've had some worry days and some lonely nights. My mama said the only time you look down on anyone is when you're helping them up. You believe that? Me too. And I still do it.
That there's so much about a place, almost anywhere you live, that if you look for it, you can find value.
But every time I look around and I think things over,
you see and you meet like people from everywhere. This is like kind of the umbrella for like the community. It's home, let's say. Yeah.
all of my good days outweigh my bad days.
Sure, it was not all good, but my cousin recently preached a sermon that I heard, and that was, the windshield is a lot bigger than the rearview mirror.
I won't complain.
Is when the power of love overcomes the love of power, not only in Alamance County, but I think the entire world. I think we'd be better citizens. I think that we can get along with each other a little bit better than we're getting along with each other now.
So y'all see why I started crying? Yeah. So the beautiful thing about this work is that what you all witnessed was the foundation. It was the cornerstone of why we all got involved, was to tell these stories, to give them honor, and to create space for these kind of hidden stories. But out of that work came many other really dope projects. So in 2018, what we were able to see, I'm going to ask Dr. Marshall to come up and help me with this timeline. We're going to tag team this if this is okay with y'all, or were you doing this one, Dr. Lake? We're going to tag team this. So what we began to see is that we have this evolution of the project. So we started with Jane Sellers and Dr. Marshall putting together this beautiful, starting this beautiful collection of stories. And out of that, we started to see a lot of other projects developing. And so I'm gonna pass this to.
And there really are too many supporters and collaborators to thank in this moment. But over the past 3 to 5 years, all of these other courses and faculty members and students and community partners have gotten together to support this work. From the course on race, place, and memory, to our graduate program in iMedia Studies, to art history, to writing for visual media, our administration. The projects just keep evolving to support whatever we imagine next. The feedback we got last year was filtered into the intergenerational night of storytelling. And so this work just keeps unfolding as we go. And we're really excited to collect your feedback in this moment today to imagine what we want to see in 2023. And so you can see here beyond the digital stories, and we have the oral histories. We now have an archival site. We have social media campaigns and public screenings and dialogues. And we want to continue that work with your guidance. So that's sort of the past leading into what do we want the future to be. Did you want to add anything? What was it? Yes.
All right, so this year's stories are broken up into 3 panels. All of the stories you're going to hear today speak about giving hope through service leadership, breaking barriers of misunderstanding and discrimination, and making change in the community, and advice to the young generation on how to make change. And we're going to go ahead and start with the first panel. Just briefly, what we'll do, we're going to invite our students to come up and introduce the story. We'll watch all three stories. We'll have time for each table to discuss the stories and the themes they saw in those stories. And at the very end, we'll have time for a larger group discussion.
Hello all, my name is Abigail, and along with my classmate Julia, we had the honor of interviewing Mr. Joe Faust, a legend in the Alamance community. We entitled this piece, Blessed and Highly Favored, and the stories he shared imparted on us the message that change beginning within yourself can have great impacts for positive change within your community.
I've had some good days. I've had some hills to climb. I've had some worry days and some lonely nights. But every time I look around and I think things over, all of my good days outweigh my bad days. I won't complain. I mean, I can start from I was born September the 24th, 1933. I mean, so you see, I just turned 89 years old. I've had a good life. So you see, I've been blessed and highly favored. Well, and it ain't because of all the stuff that I have done that was good, but I remember the day when my mom told me to come and kneel down in the front of her. And she was sitting on a step, and I was sitting on the bottom step. And she put a hand and she pushed my head back. And she said, Joe? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you know I love you. And I say, I love you too, Mom. She said, well, you know what I've asked the Lord to do? I've asked the Lord to let me see a change come in your life before I die. She said, because you're too mean to live, and God knows you ain't fitting to die. And you see, that took toll on me. And that changed me. Because I was a mean boy. But I mean, you see, you don't have to be mean. People can do that to you. And ever since, my mama said the only time you look down on anyone is when you're helping them up. You believe that? Me too. Helping people is something. We have a lot of people don't do that no more. A lot of people, the only thing that they like is just what you can do for them. They don't think about what you can help somebody else. Yeah. I've been blessed and highly favored because the Lord has brought me from a long, long way. I had a radio ministry that I did on WSML radio. I did it for 54 years. I belonged to the Clinton Memorial Church ever since I was a child. And I did a lot of things. And I've always been a person to like to help people. You know what? I have helped people that didn't have food. I found out I would always find something to do to share with them with the stuff, you know, that we had. I have found out one thing. Hard work ain't never killed nobody. If you want to have something, it's there for you. But I mean, you can choose what you want to do. I mean, you know, I have did a little bit of everything. I had the first Black Gospel program that was on the radio. I was there for 54 years. And anytime anybody had anything that they wanted somebody to know about, they would always get me to put it on the radio. because they said that I had the most listened to program that was in the area anywhere. That is here, Mako Bigelow, the one that they named this place after. He and I, we used to promote gospel singing. All of these was professional singing. And I was singing with a group that they called the Pearly Gates and the Mighty Trinitarians. So we traveled all over the country when we had a recording, and I got a song on one of the CDs that I did. Woo, thank you, Jesus. That song, see where he brought me from. He brought a whole lot of changes made. Whole lot of changes made. Some of them was good, and some of them is bad. But a lot of people that still got that. You judge you on your color, your race, yeah. But they don't see, they can't understand that the Lord has got everybody. He don't judge you because of the color of your skin, your nationality. He don't do that. I mean, he give all of us a chance. All right? That song said, choose this day who you want to serve. If you serve man, you're going the wrong way. But if you serve God and you put your trust in him, you know good thing gonna happen. That's how come I'm still here. Because it was time to make a change. Okay?
Okay, the next group will introduce CeeLo, Mr. Foster. Oh, no.
Hi everyone, my name's Lauren Gibbons-Neff.
And I'm Max Leonard, and we interviewed Amal Kador for this project, and our story is titled Amal Means Hope.
And something that we both took away from this project was how not only how Amal went through so much so early in her life from immigrating from Jordan to the US, but how she was also able to channel her commitment to service in the local Alamance County. Thank you.
My name, Amal, mean hope. My family, they are immigrated from Palestine in 1948. I was their firstborn kid after they immigrate. I have so many brothers and sisters before me, but I was the first one born in Jordan. And I think my dad, used the name Hope. He was hoping, for a new start, a new life, and in which he said, when I born, it was their life has changed completely. I remember my dad, he used to tell us, to leave the town because the soldier, they came into the town. My dad was building a new house for my family, and he was having a big hope because he's gonna have not just his kids, all his family to be there together. We hear people they left their town and they have the key for their door. They have, some souvenir, they take from them. My dad, he just bought a door for the house, the outside door. He grabbed that door and he left with it. He carried that door from Palestine all the way to Jordan. We always, we look at that door, we remember my dad's story. I felt so sad, and I felt the hard time my dad he had. He carrying this door with him everywhere, and this is the only thing he could take with him. He was hoping one day he would go back to Palestine. He got a job and start working, and his business, he built his business again. He built a small house for us because he don't want to build a big one because he's going back to his big house. I was 20. I never want to come here. Story changed when I got engaged to my husband, and he was a student here in U.S. He was coming for his bachelor degree. And the plan was we're just gonna be here for 2 years, and we're gonna go back to our country. So what's happened when he finished school, and we were like ready to leave. We got a call from his mother saying, like the soldiers coming and they taken all the young men in town. And she like begged her son not to come. So we stayed here. And now it's like 31 years I've been here. And so we live majority of our life over here away from our family and country. When I moved here to Burlington, I started the Sunday school here in Burlington. I was the first one to start Sunday school. In 2007, when they started bringing refugees from like Iraq, I used to go like to the masajid in Greensboro and like give classes there for the sisters, the brother, like and the youth. And one day in the class, this lady, she came and she was from Iraq, and she said, no masajid come and visit us. Nobody asked about us. And I said, we are not aware of anything about you guys. She said, no, there's so many families, no masajid, they come. And I said, okay, we can go and help and see what we can do. So I remember like when I went with her that day, I visited like 28 family. But when I went there, I got overwhelmed. I felt like there's a heavy load, like I put myself in a situation, I didn't know what is it. And they look at you like you are like, the hope for them. And that's lead me to start and establish the clinic. It's home, let's say. Yeah. Your faith, it does not change. Like it's not based on the place you are living in, So like, when I left Jordan, I was Muslim, and the God I was worshipped over there in Jordan, he's still over here in US. Wherever I'm gonna go, God is gonna be there, So might be like, the places changes, the people, they are changes, the languages changes, but God does not change, Thanks God, I'm always proud being a Muslim woman here in US, anywhere on earth.
Hello everyone, my name is Claire.
I'm Marissa.
And my name is Lindsay.
We had the honor of interviewing Mr. CeeLo Fawcett. Our video is titled A Place to Be Proud Of. We loved getting to know Mr. Fawcett, and we felt truly inspired by the love and dedication he has for this community.
I was born in Glen Raven in January 12, 1947. Most of my family still lives there. My grandfather owned a little store in the neighborhood, Fawcett Grocery. I grew up in segregation. I went to school in a little 3-room schoolhouse. Yeah, it was named Della Plain, and it was there in Glen Raven. There was no bathrooms. We only had one big stove in the middle of the floor, 3 rooms. Glen Raven Elementary was a white school, so we'd go and get the lunches and bring them back to our school. Yeah, if you take your little lunch bag with you, you walk down the road with the little greasy lunch bag. That was one of the most interesting time before we went to the city schools. So schools are integrated now, and everybody's getting the equal opportunity to get an education, and that's been a big thing. I moved away for a number of years, but I always wanted to come back home because I knew what Burlington was like when I was growing up. The Burlington pool, we couldn't go to that back in the day. They put a pool in North Park in might have been 53, I think. A lot of people from all over, from Richmond all the way to anywhere around the Raleigh, Durham area would come to North Park because we had the best park for blacks to come to at the time. It's here in my heart that North Park has done that, because that was my daycare. My cousin was one of the lifeguards there, and they send us with him. And we stay over there a whole day. You know, you come back, your fingers are wrinkled, and your toes are wrinkled, you know, from standing in the water all day long. But it's come a long way. The city's come a long way. They funded getting it done. And I want to thank Elon again. We put the garden over there, and it just so happened it's named after me. You know, everybody in certain areas felt like they were being neglected by the city. So we came up with the idea that we needed to do something with North Park, and that's what we did. Put a new pool in, put walking tracks in. If you ever been over there to see it, I think it's a beautiful park now. So everybody's happy with it. You know, like you got the 7 wonders of the world, okay? And North Park has become one of the 7 wonders of Burlington. My biggest thing was growing up where I grew up. I loved my little community. Always had it in my mind to come back home and began to think about what I wanted to do with myself when I came back here. So I decided to get into politics. Why? Still beats me, but it was because I wanted to make my city better. Well, you had a stronger voice, I feel like, if you were an elected official. You know, you could get people to listen to you. And all I asked was their support. Once they understood what we were trying to do, you support what we're doing, you know, because it's for the betterment of everybody. Again, it's a passion for me to see my city come up and be one of the better cities in North Carolina for people to live. My pride and joy has been my family and my city. People, when I was running for office, people say, you live in West Burlington. I said, no, I live in Glen Raven. I want to help the people in Alamance County. I don't care what color you are, black, white. It's not my job. My job is to help the citizens of Alamance County, and that's what I've tried to do the times that I was in office, and I still continue to try to do that. This is the best country in the world. I live in the best community in the world. So you just got to be part of it. You just have to be part of your community and love your community, love what it stands for, and make it better for anybody that wants to come here. It doesn't cost me anything. It doesn't cost them anything but a little time. I had a lot of time to give to try to make things better. You got to want to be involved. If you want to volunteer for the city, we've got opportunities for volunteers. If you want to volunteer for, like I am, with Alamance Community Services, but take part in your government, take part in your city. That's what the government's there for. If you aren't taking part in it, the government's not going to work. You've got to come together as a county, as a people, to get things done. And if we can do that, then the world's going to be a better place. I want to sing a song now. The world will be a better place if we just, whatever it is.
This world would be a better place if you put love in your heart. This world would be.
Okay, we want to thank the groups that worked on those 3 stories and our storytellers as well. And at this time, we're going to give you all an opportunity to talk amongst your groups, the people at your table, to just reflect on these 3 stories that you just saw. What gives you hope about these stories? And then what hopes do you have for the future of Alamance County? So as you talk in your groups and you come up with some ideas, there are some sticky notes in the middle of your table. Feel free to write those down, and then we're going to come around and post those on the sheets around the room and have a further discussion a little later on today. All right, happy chatting.
If you're at a table with 1 or 2 others, please go ahead and join others at a table. And if you're online, we'd love to have you contribute your thoughts on these questions in the chat box, and we will post those along with the others. So please, at this moment, go ahead and answer those 2 prompts. What gave you hope in these stories, and what hope do you have for Alamance County?
Hearing so much wonderful discussion. So we just want to keep the stories rolling, and we have more time for discussion between the next 2 panels as well as at the end. But now I'd like to introduce our second panel, which is Breaking Barriers. As we all know, many barriers still exist in Alamance County. And the stories we're going to see now discuss experiences of breaking barriers of discrimination and misunderstanding. So I'm going to invite up Rachel and Beth to introduce the first story.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Bethany.
And we had the honor of interviewing Brother Shahar Syed. And we want to thank Dr. Marshall as well for helping us with this project. I think we're both really inspired by Mr. Syed's adherence to his values and how those really got him through the toughest times. And he really still has an amazing positive outlook on life.
So his stories, like many others, are about his childhood growing up in Palestine and what that was like for him, and then his transition over to the United States through school and eventually through working and helping find the Burlington Masjid as it is today.
My name is Shahar Syed, born and raised in Palestine in the city of Hebron. Came to the US in the mid-80s. We come from like a small town next to the city. So my father was one of the first ones to be a reader and learn how to read and write and all that. So that raised his status in the town. He became a merchant after that, traveled around, and every time what he did to me and to my life specifically is every time he traveled, he'll come back with more books. So I grew up loving to read books and all that. I came here to get a higher education degree, spend a couple of years and go back. I had an undergrad degree from Palestine, so I wanted to add to it a grad degree from here. And so I was excited, looking forward to it. I knew it was a challenge, but it's like an adventure, really. I come here and I barely had enough money to pay for the first summer session. So I had to start working. And my third day in the US, that's when I got my first job, washing dishes. So for the duration of my whole study, I will go to school in the morning, finish school, put a uniform, and go work until maybe 1 or 2 after midnight. So that, making sure I have the tuition for the next semester, that was a big challenge. But what happened, I started working in Burlington before I moved to it. And for about a good 6 months, I commuted from Winston-Salem to Burlington to work. So I had a good feel of people and things around here. I was warned too many times that Burlington is not the friendliest towards foreigners, strangers, anything that can be defined as the other. So in the beginning, trying to blend. But then after, when I decided to bring my family, I realized really trying to blend and lose your identity is not the solution. So I remember when first week we moved here with my family, we ventured out and knocking on the neighbors' doors and introducing ourselves to them. And so the best way to be part of this community is to let them know we're here and deal with them. So it was okay. I mean, we had very dear friends that happened as a result of that. We had few rejections, doors closed in our faces, but we resisted, and the little success in making a friend here and there, just you keep working on it. We wanted to have a place to be the focal for us as Muslims, and for Muslims, the natural focus point or gathering place is a masjid or an Islamic center. And that was missing from Burlington. So we start looking for that until we found this church. And I remember myself driving down the street down Melbourne Street and seeing the big sign that says for sale. We really had a lot of faith. We didn't have the money that was needed. And I personally, on behalf of the community, made the commitment financially that we will buy it and we gave the date. And then after that, we start trying to find the money to pay it. But God made it easy, and we had the money ready when it was needed. As soon as somebody had news of Muslims buying a church, so that's a double thing, that there is Muslims here. Like, I mean, we just came in, and then buying a church and changing the church into a mosque. So there was threats, and there was things like go dump some, put a big head on the front door. No, we shouldn't allow this to happen, and just this kind of short-sighted threats that happen. Just at that time, the police department approached us and said, "You are aware of this?" We said, "We just knew about it." So we said, "What are you gonna do with it?" And we just instantly told them, "We're gonna do what our religion teaches to do." And our response was to come here with the United Church of Christ, which was still here in this building. And we did an open day together, Muslims and Christians, to serve the community. And during it, we said this is how we respond to negativism, by being more productive, which is a verse in our holy book that it says, respond to evil with good and positivity, and that way turn enemies into friends. And that thing really did bring many enemies back to being friends.
Hello, I'm Rachel Brandis, and I had the privilege of interviewing Dr. Rosalind Crisp. The video that I created is called Maybe One Day, and being a senior in college, I often feel the pressures of figuring out what my life looks like after I graduate. And speaking with Dr. Crisp during our interview, she made me feel confident that if I keep believing in myself and my abilities and stay confident, that I will be able to succeed in whatever I choose to do and whatever is the right path for me. So thank you, Dr. Crisp.
Two things I remember about North Park. One was the dance floor, watching people entertain themselves through dance. That was really fun here at North Park. And then the other thing, of course, we had the pool, but the carousel. It was one of two in town. And it was a Denzel carousel, and it was sort of like the one downtown Burlington, but sort of not, because the horses on this carousel weren't as nice as the ones on the other carousel, but we could still ride, and that was fun. But that was that separate but unequal kind of thing. So we would drive up what is now Church Street. It was Highway 70. It was a 2-lane highway. I distinctly remember. And I remember being a little girl in the car, looking out the window, passing Burlington City Park and seeing that carousel, which was lit up and playing music. And I was like, "Daddy, I want to ride that carousel." And he said, "Not today, honey, not today, maybe one day." So now every time I pass it, because I pass it going back and forth, I think of his words, "Not today, honey, not today, maybe one day." When I chose to be a dentist, I did not have a female dentist role model. I became interested in dentistry at a very early age. I want to think it was 8 or 9 when I first started to lose baby teeth. And back then, if you wanted to research something, you had to use the encyclopedia. So I pulled the Encyclopedia T and started reading about teeth. And I became interested that way. And I didn't realize, teeth dentistry, I didn't realize that this was something a girl couldn't do. So I come from a long line of teachers. I set out to establish a solo private practice that was a little unheard of for an African American woman. And I had put all my ducks in a row. I had a business plan. I had a way that I wanted to do this. I had a vision for my practice. and I had to secure financing for equipment. And I remember it was in the middle of summer, and I had on my best cool summer clothes, and I'm going from bank to bank trying to secure a loan for my equipment. And I distinctly remember going to one of the banks, and he said, well, okay, the only way we can give you this loan is if you get your parents to co-sign with you and have them put their house up for your equipment. And it was a hot summer day. And it was probably the third or fourth bank I'd been to. And I'm like, sir, I can't do that, because you and I both know that this equipment will stand for itself. I will not ask my parents to do that. I said, I understand if you can't support an African American woman trying to start a business with a good business plan. I said, do you not realize that my degree is just like a Caucasian male that you would walk in here and get a loan? Do you not realize that we are the very same? I said, I can't do that and I won't do that, but thank you for your time. And I got up and left. So I think it was probably the fourth or fifth one that I went to who finally agreed to finance the equipment. Why not? Why not? I mean, who told you that? You got to validate the person who said that to you, because sometimes if somebody tells you that you can't do anything, it's because of their own inequities. They're the ones with the problem, not me, because I can do anything. Story. When I was in dental school, I had this professor, because I was probably half the size I am now, and he said, oh, you'll never be able to take out teeth. I was like, really? And then he was like, well, you're gonna have to use your head. And I'm like, okay. And I thought about the fact that, okay, so you got a tough tooth to take out. You section it and take it out in pieces. So if it's little pieces come out a whole lot easier than one big bulky tooth. So I always think about that, using my head and not my brawn. I think that being a Black and being a woman has put me in a position to be in places oftentimes alone, in a man's world, in a white man's world. And I remember so many times I have been in environments where I probably was the only one. But the more I talk to my colleagues and people that I may have been a little bit leery about, I have come to realize that I know just as much as they know. I'm no different than they are. It's just that I might look different. So, and that's okay, because I like the way I look, and it's okay that I look different from them. One of my messages to young women would be to be prepared to do whatever it is that you want to do. And even if you have to go it alone, as long as you're prepared, everything's going to be just fine.
So our final story on this panel was produced by two students, Ben Rosenblatt and Myson Darden. Ben and Myson are on the men's soccer team, and they had a conflict this morning. They're still hoping to join us for the conversation afterwards, but they asked me to introduce the story. Ben and Myson told me how much interviewing Mohsin Siddiqui was inspirational to them. They were very inspired by the fact that Mohsin came here knowing very little English, and yet has risen to become a leader in the retail industry here in Burlington. But more than that, more than just the personal success he's had, he also was one of the founding members of the Burlington Masjid, and which has created a welcoming community here in Burlington. So we're going to share his story now. Thank you.
So like I said, Karachi is a very big city. we come as a middle-class family, so you see a lot of struggle growing up, as a kid, and we have some good time and bad time. But young kid, I was very, very active in a neighborhood, always doing something in the neighborhood, for other kids, always get together, doing things, Always, I mean, like I say, I was the one of those I can call leader in my neighborhood. So we used to do a August 14, which is our Independence Day celebration in our street. We close down the street both sides and we clean every single house from the house. And we just end of the day in the evening we put a bigger stage. And have a lot of singing songs and doing a bunch of small games and this and that for the kids. So those memories is always stuck in my head because I'll be involved in there for good 4 days, to coming to the event, and getting ready for it and all that good stuff, So like I say, my uncle filed a petition for my dad as an immigrant to come to U.S. And sure enough, he was waiting for the visa to come, and back then it usually take 8 to 9 years to get here after you file the petition. So my uncle applied for him, and July in 1994, our visa came, and we came here as an immigrant. In Burlington, North Carolina, and it was funny that I came from Karachi, for the biggest city of Pakistan. So I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to the U.S., which is a superpower country, versus it comes from a third world country, So when we landed in Raleigh, North Carolina, we're traveling from Raleigh to Burlington. It was nothing but the woods and the trees, and very, very country. I said, hold on, do I really came to a powerful country, or I'm, it was just amazing for me. A little different for me, as just coming from big city, come to Burlington. It was really a small city, So that was a little shocking, but that's where we came, Burlington, North Carolina. Family. When I was growing up, it was all about family. I mean, I have a friend, I have a school friend, but they're still in school. We leave the school and that's it, We have a friend on the street, which is like a, neighborhood friend. We just go play cricket sometime in the evening, we go play cricket and we just, at that time we leave and they go home, we go home, So I really grew up in my family, like my uncles and my aunties, really sit down with them, and just having conversations. So I really, my cousins, back in Pakistan. So I really miss that part big time because it was just, in Pakistan, it's kind of crazy. You be sitting at home at 8 o'clock and your bell ring. Here go your auntie on the door, or your uncle on the door. There is no such a thing, I'm calling, hey, are you home? No. You just show up, and those kind of things, I definitely miss it, I still do, When I came, I started working right away, and English was the biggest barrier for me because I never English speak in my life. When I was a 19-year-old, I mean, I do learn English a little bit, but it was not like fluent speak English to anybody, So English was a barrier, so I have to work the place where there's no communication, so I can work and make money right away. So I work at the place in Glen Raven. It's called Commercial Live-In. It's a place where you just simply go there and remove the metal from the copper. So they give a big old magnet you throw on the little belt with the copper going. Then you collect all the metal out of the copper. It's only copper go to the little thing. So there was no communication. They give you metal, you pull the metal. That's what you gotta do, So I was doing that, and at the same time I was working at the Winn-Dixie actually. So my shift was actually, I used to go to work 10 o'clock in the night in Winn-Dixie, work till 7 o'clock, and get off at 7 and go to my other job. I did that for almost 6 months because it was my need because I don't speak English, so I have to work places where I have no communication. I just work at nighttime, start in Winn-Dixie and go there. I guess focal point, is just the way place you're gonna come and do anything as far to pray and conversations, and very important because as a Muslim, the mosque is the place you want to do things, and the good thing about that in Islam, the mosque is just not a prayer place. You can do other things that's for the business and other conversation and things like that, so it's a very important place for me, definitely. I mean, it's this identification, you know, that's who we are, you know, and mosque is just bring you, it's just a place where you can show up, you know, and do things, you know, how Islam wants us to do as well, you know, and because I firmly believe that you gotta have some kind of connection somewhere, you know, and that mosque will give you the connection, you know, and that's why I tell my kid, you know, always related to, you know, who you are, where you're from, you know, and then mosque will just give you that identity. Hey, look, we are the Muslim, and that's what we're in a community for, you know, that's what we're here for. So it just give me that, you know, ease and tranquility, you know, in my heart to come to the mosque and, you know, do things here.
So now we invite you to have another brief discussion about breaking barriers. What barriers were broken in these stories, and what barriers do we still have in Alamance County in our community here?
Okay, I hate to cut off great conversation, but we would like to move on to the next set of stories. I do. I need a ding, 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 ding. A glass of champagne might be too early. Maybe a mimosa glass. All right, we're going to move on to the next set of stories. I love the trailblazing stories that we just watched, but these are probably my favorite set because they all are under the theme of creating and making change. One of my favorite parables is that if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And these stories really capture going together and going far and making monumental change within the county. So I present to you these next 3 stories with the first storytellers, interviewees.
Good morning, I'm Hannah. And I'm Chandler. We had the pleasure of being able to interview the Baldwins. We titled our story, I Found My Family Here, the intersection between the village and education. And our biggest takeaway from this is the dedication that this couple has had to the community that raised them, despite moving away at such a young age.
My family has lived in Alamance County since I have traced our history back into the 1700s. I found my family here. I can't say I was unhappy at Melville, but apparently I complained to my relatives. My father was in my life. His name was George Thompson. My aunts, everybody was in my life then. And when I complained, that's how I got to Burlington. When I was with Miss Kirk, when I was in first grade, no, there was only about 3 students in there with me. And that year, I was the only one that got promoted. So when I was in second grade, I was helping the teacher. So I should have known then that I would be a teacher.
What we're talking about is I could ride my bicycle over the Cedar Road, which across town, from Charleston across town, was probably about 2.5 miles, maybe 3. Get over there, be having fun, and some mother would come out of the door, or the father, they were working, I guess, and says, I know who you are, and you're over here acting mannish. I'm gonna tell your mother, never tell my father, okay? So of course I get on my bicycle back to Charleston. Before I got home, the word was there, and we didn't have any telephone. So I haven't figured that out. How did that word get back there?
brought a lot of people together. Most high schools will bring people together, although they may not come together frequently. But in the Black community, I believe, of Alamance, there's data to show that brings the people together. And I won't take credit for all of that. I had high school friends who worked with us, and the cover of that book was done by Ben Morrow, who was, I believe he was in the class of 1959. And my classmates, we had to pay for the marker. And we were talking about how we would raise money. And one woman stood up and said, why don't we give $50 a piece? Well, I wasn't about to walk in the room and ask everybody to give me $50. But before we left the Golden Corral, we had $900. $1,100. And we're talking about regular, all of these, most of them were Black women, maybe 4 or 5 men, but retired. And we think of Black people as not having a lot of money. And in a few days, we had the $2,400 that we needed for the market. The county could not pay for it. That's what makes this something exceptional.
I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. I believe that somewhere in the darkest night, a candle glows.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Wyatt Woodard.
And my name is Kobe Fetcher.
We were both sophomores here at Elon, and we interviewed Sister Ghazala Masood from the Burlington Masjid. And we had a great time working on this project with her. One thing Sister Ghazala told us was that if you are honest and you do good work, then everything will pay off for you. So this is a quote that Kobe and I are going to take away from this project. And I just want to give a special thanks to Dr. Marshall for all of your help throughout this. Thank you.
Okay, I was born in Kashmir, Pakistan, and my date of birth is August 18, 1952. My family is also from Pakistan, and they were very much into education and activities, and very much involved in social work and welfare of the poor people. So all of my life, I have been around a family who was working for needy people. My memory is that climbing the mountains, collecting flowers. I was very fond of butterflies. I used to catch butterflies. I can still imagine myself collecting the butterflies. I like the colors and things, and I was very much into art when I was very young. There's no story. I got married. It was an arranged marriage. So I came with my husband to America. Oh, I thought something else about New York, but it was very, very congested and different what I thought about it, yeah. But then I saw all those tall buildings and Broadway shows. You know, I was newly married. We went to those shows, and going in the subway, I have never seen a subway. And so many people, you know, around the subway. You can see lying on the side of the subway. It was a different world. I have never seen these things in Pakistan, and you see all kind of people in New York. I was very excited to see a different country. In New York, then Washington, D.C., in New Jersey, and it was not very clean. Yeah, you go out and it's very lot of people over there, and but when I came to Burlington, it looked very clean and calm, and I thought for my children to grow here in America, I think Burlington will be a good place. Yeah. But for myself as a woman, I think I have more opportunities here than in Pakistan. There are a lot of jobs which a woman cannot do in Pakistan because of the culture. You cannot go alone outside and men look at you, like a woman is doing a business or something. Here in America, I had more opportunities. I have my own business. I'm an investor. I do invest in real estate, and I have done a lot of houses and places I have renovated, and I have made some places which were not doing very well in Glen Raven. I took the whole place, and I built a medical center over there. I built it to 2 nursing homes. And the whole area is different. Even the city came to me and they said, you have made a lot of change in this area, because now it's a better area to live. With all those houses which I have renovated and the things, the area went up, and I'm very proud of it. It was hard. A lot of people, I had a lot of losses, but I still didn't give up. Yeah. And then people from, I shouldn't take names, who are big in the business, they came to me and they said, this is not a good place, this is not for you, and this is what happens here, and you should be away from this business. Because there are some bigger people, investors, who are sitting over there, they won't let you in. Yeah. I didn't give up. If you are honest, you do good work, Allah helps you. I'm a woman and I'm a partner, and I love to do this work because I have art in myself. I take places, I change them. And people who want me not to work nowadays, my work is different from them. So Alhamdulillah, it's the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm doing well.
I wanted to stand up for this last one.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah. My name's Maddie. And we had the honor to interview Tony Forrest. And our project is titled A Legacy of Leaders. One thing we're always going to remember from this experience is having the opportunity to meet Tony Forrest and get to see the inspiration he has been for so many people and the positive impact he has had on his community.
And I just wanted to add, it was an honor to watch them develop this, but also to just watch a raw footage. So I just wanted to say that, sorry.
My name is Tony Forrest. It's actually Anthony. Tony is just a nickname. I have a sister a couple of years younger than I am. My mom and dad, and it was just the 4 of us. My parents were educators, and they had a lot of connections and things that they were involved in, and of course that would drag us along as well. I think in many cases my parents were looked at as, I guess, community leaders. And I could feel that as I was growing up. I could see that they had an influence on other people. And I think that had an influence on me. We were a close-knit community, but the racial differences were very evident. When I was growing up as a young man, to be perfectly candid, I didn't have white friends. It's not that I had something against white people, but I just didn't know them, and they didn't know me. And of course, the schools were segregated at the time. When I was in elementary school, I must have been about 7th or 8th grade or something like that. And I had a paper route that kind of put me in a situation where I was around people of other races. Like I said, that was my first encounter, but the point is that it made me aware that there are differences. There were differences in the way that I was perceived. There were differences in the way I was treated. In fact, the neighborhood where I lived in, there was like a big field or a cow pasture that was separating the black community from the white community. And for the most part, nobody went over that line. We didn't go into other people's areas. As the schools were beginning to be integrated, they built the new school, and of course, it wasn't fully integrated until after I left. But I had my secondary education right here in Alamance County. I really got involved in a lot of civic type organizations, and of course, this was again during the civil rights era. And I'd always had this desire to be involved in some way, to do something, to pull my weight. I eventually got involved to the point that I was made party chair of the Alamance County Democratic Party. Part of my responsibilities at that time was to try to get other people to run for office, good people to run for office. And we came down to the point that somebody was suggesting, well, you're always asking us to run. Why don't you do that? I was running for the North Carolina Senate. I ran for office in 2004. I did lose that election, but the experience was positive. And it was positive to me because I really felt like I made a difference. So I ran again in 2006, and I did win. I won in 2008. I was inspired by a lot of people around me. They were carrying that baton before I got involved. To me, it's about carrying that baton a certain way, and you hand it off to someone else. No one can do it all by himself. And I wanted to do my part. And my part was to take that baton as far as I could take it. And then I give it to someone else, and they give it to someone else. And that's how progress is made, the way I see it. I think there's always something that we can do. There's always a role that we can play. And if nothing else, you can always be an inspiration to somebody else.
So y'all see why I was a fangirl for these last three stories. So in the same way that we've asked you to have table discussions for the previous sections, we would also ask you to get in your groups and speak again and really brainstorm about what changes did you notice in these stories? And then what changes do you want to see next in Alamance County? Please use the Post-it notes that are on your table. For those of you who are online, please contribute in the chat, and we will conclude shortly.
Okay, so it's been wonderful hearing all these small table discussions. Seeing these discussions happen is a dream come true for many of us in this room, many of us not in this room, many of us not here today. So it's just wonderful seeing these conversations take place, and we want to open these conversations up to broader discussion. So we'd love to hear about the connections you saw between the stories, the connections that you made with these stories. We've got 3 roving mics, so we want to turn it over to the audience. What stories resonated with you most? Or what connections between the stories resonated with you most? What moments will you take away? What are the things that you're going to take away with you from these stories going forward? And how do you see these stories moving forward in our community? we've got 3 mics. Feel free to raise your hand and just share out anything you'd like to share about these stories or anything that came out of your conversations at your tables.
Do not be shy, please.
And also our storytellers who are here with us, please feel free to share more. We've got the Zoom as well, which we'll be monitoring.
I feel like these stories, can everyone hear me? Yeah, great, okay. I feel like these stories definitely reminded me and my partner, Rachel here, that here at Elon, we often forget that although we call it the Elon bubble, a lot of us are from the North, that we are very much in the South, and that segregation here was not that long ago. So one thing for me, at least, is from these stories, remembering and realizing that it wasn't that long ago and we have made a lot of progress, but there's still a lot more to be done.
So one of the things that connected me was like the middle group stories. So we're actually from Alamance County. We lived there for 15 years. And now we moved on to Guilford County. And what really connects me is outsiders trying to become a part of your community. That is so important. We moved during the pandemic. So during that time, no one wanted to talk to other people. So we moved in this community. We didn't know anyone. So what did we do? We walked around the community and we actually introduced ourselves to everyone that lives really close to us. So that to me is what connected me to the stories, is to be a part of the community, you gotta put yourself out there so they can see you and hopefully you can do stuff together.
Would one of our storytellers who are present like to share? I was hoping.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who was involved in this, because it makes me realize that everybody has a story. What's different about this is these stories that we're looking at here are hopefully going to be archived and they'll be available for a lot of other people to hear. But everybody has a story, and if we can come together on a regular basis and tell our stories, I think it will help pull people together. It will help us to realize that as good a community as this is, and as much as we love the people around us, none of us is perfect. There is room for improvement. And how would you know how to improve if you didn't talk about what needs to be improved? So we all have stories, and we all have an obligation, I think, to our communities to just be what we are and to share that with anyone who will listen. And thank you all again.
So it's I'm going to take the risk of speaking after Mr. Forrest, who's going to always say wonderful things. Something that your comment made me think about is the story about how aunties would knock on the door after a no calling ahead. My mom grew up in Southern Virginia, and when we would come to the house anytime to go home, it didn't matter who, when, where, everyone just came by the house. And that was something that it's so different from my experience now, where that doesn't happen. You don't just stop by the house. And I really loved it. I got to know so much about the town that she grew up in. I would just, we would roll our eyes as teenagers that was happening, but it was such a wonderful experience. And to hear something a world away that was happening that that person missed so much, and then to think about it myself, like those are those connections that stories can bring out that you wouldn't get to if we were only thinking about sometimes what we call the big stuff. Yeah.
I'd like to echo on a little bit what Tony said. I'd like to thank Elon and all of the students for inviting us to participate in this, especially my table of young ladies over here. I think they're the best in the world. We had fun doing this, and I appreciate them. And my only saying that I'm going to leave a little something with you. That's old person, since I'm old, but an elderly person told me that these kids were walking down the street one day, and these elderly gentlemen were under this oak tree. And they wanted to know, why you guys keep sitting up under this oak tree every day,
talking to each other. So finally, they continue to pass by and they see fewer and fewer members of the group that were sitting under the oak tree. So one day they passed by there and this old man was planting an oak tree. They want to know, why were you planting that oak tree? He said, I'm planting it for you and your friends. So you can take away from that what he meant by that. And that depended on you guys, you're the young generation coming along. One day you can plant your oak tree and somebody's going to walk by that. And that's what I want to leave with you today. Okay. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm Nettie Baldwin. No. Hello? I don't think so.
Go ahead. You're good. Wait, we have one.
Yes, go ahead.
So, we know the story right now, so I was talking to my people earlier. When I came to here in North Carolina in Burlington, I was working for McDonald's and I was sitting around with a bunch of old people who come and enjoy my 29-cent coffee for 3 hours. Believe it or not, what I have learned was those 15 people about the America that would never learn from anybody else. So the story is what brought me where I am right now. I was a guy who was 19 years old, never experienced my life. Where I am, what I have built, and what I have everything in this time and I'm in the States is amazing. And I'm truly believe I was in New York, in a bigger city. I couldn't have done what I've done. So I've come to North Carolina. People have a time in the small city to talk to you and give you the time and reflect you and what you want to do or you don't want to do. But in the big city, don't really happen. So I'm really glad that I'm not County and very good why I have my accomplish and what I've done. And definitely bring the budget and we try to build it a bit. Wellington is definitely in there. So thank you for that.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Forrest.
This is Nettie Baldwin. I am in Maryland now, but I'm from Alamance County and Graham. I really was inspired by this program today. And I think it's a big beginning, and perhaps you've been working on it quite a while, but we could have so many of these in other groups if we could spread the same concept among children and adults. It would be wonderful for stories. I always think of the idea of connecting and then you engage people, but then when do you feel that you belong? And this is a way of bringing people in and you begin to belong to that community. And I think of belonging with, when we think of diversity, some people have been rejected or disinvited, but at what point do you belong? And I saw many stories, Dr. Chris and many of the Pakistanians told their story of how they engaged and eventually belonged to this village, Burlington. So this is great progress. We must keep moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other closing comments?
First of all, I want to thank you guys for inviting me to participate in the study and being, well, thank you, Rachel. She's looking at me because I really appreciate all that she's done and said and made me look good. No, this was wonderful. And deep down in my heart, I am a storyteller, but I appreciate the fact that you guys thought enough of me to include my stories and give me an opportunity to express myself. But at this table, as we were talking and looking at all the other stories, there was one word that kind of intertwined and persevered throughout all of the presentations, and that was resilience. And I think that's the key word that we should always own and take with us wherever we go, whatever we do. Being resilient is key to success, no matter who you are and what you do. So thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to us doing this again.
Well, thank you so much for all of you for sharing. When we think about storytelling, we think about maybe nostalgia and just looking back to earlier times, and that can maybe give us a sense of regression. But from all of your comments, I'm hearing that these stories are inspiring us to think about change and how we want to see things change in this community. So it's not just about looking back in the past with rose-tinted glasses, but acknowledging the past and existing struggles and barriers we have today and creating community and belonging to overcome those together. I want to thank so many people. First of all, I want to thank the TV and cinema arts students and Professor Scholler, who did all the filming and sound for the stories. They did an amazing job. And in particular, we want to thank Eduardo Sanchez for his help with some of the stories, as well as Jocelyn Bentley and Emily Prinz. I want to invite Dr. Lake up to give us a preview of what's ahead.
So what we do next is in large part up to the feedback we get from all of you, and which we're going to ask you to give us in just a second. But we do have some for sure next steps. We've created a website that's openly accessible with all of the oral histories from the past 5 years, the transcripts, the digital stories, and we want to continue to contribute to that. At your tables, you'll see a QR code where you can scan and access all of these materials. You can search the files, and we're going to continue to add to that. So this idea that we're archiving and sharing this openly is essential. We also are partnering with Museum Studies and Public History, an ongoing partnership with faculty across the program and with students. We'll be doing tours with them, and they'll be continuing to build this work. We are partnering with Multimedia Program to continue to share these stories. The themes you noticed here, we want to weave those together in larger narratives and larger documentaries that we can continue to share with the community. We will be partnering again this summer with our Burlington youth camps to engage our youth in these stories and to ask them to think about their own stories of place. If any of our storytellers are interested in staying or getting involved in that, when they get to meet you in person, it is really like meeting somebody famous after watching your story online and thinking about you and talking about you and drawing pictures. It was a beautiful experience, and I don't want to be a burden on your time, but if you're interested in staying involved, when they get to meet you, it's incredible. So I'd love to continue that work this summer when we work with our teachers in the local school systems. And then in the fall again, we'll be ramping up for this big event. We'll be capturing more stories with our students, hopefully another dozen, and sharing those stories with different kinds of themes, same kind of commitment. And then we need to know what we should do next by getting your feedback. And so I think that's the next slide. You'll have a couple of options. You can scan this QR code right now if you feel comfortable using your phone. Students, community members, storytellers. If not, there's also a piece of paper floating on your table, and you can leave comments there for us. What would you like us to do next? What about these stories resonated with you? How can we create change here in Burlington and Alamance? What stories should we share next? So it's a really quick form. This is essential. We're going to have a visioning meeting in a couple of weeks, and we're going to take all of the feedback you give us in this moment to decide what should be next. So again, there's physical forms on your tables. If you're online, I shared the link to this in the chat box. And if you're in person, you can scan this QR code here. Just a couple of quick questions. This was essential to creating this moment here this year when we asked you these questions last year. You should have the physical form of this is on your table as well. Shanice Sellers also is here. Did you want to come up to say anything by chance? Thank you. As you're filling that out, a couple of other things just to be aware of. If you want to visit that Omeka site, again, the website and the QR code is floating on your table where you can search the 40-ish stories I think that we have now. We also have our website, and we're going to just continue to grow that work. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for logging in. We recorded this, and again, that'll be available for all of you as well.